All right. My dad's birthday is coming up next week, and all I can think about this week is how much I resent bad dads. So this weekend, I'm going to a men's vision quest and training retreat. I'm going with a bunch of different guys with this nonprofit that focuses on training new leaders and men how to take more ownership and autonomy over their lives. And I decided to do this because I was looking for some kind of initiatory process that would help me make peace with the process of losing my dad last year and then effectively becoming the patriarch of my family tree this year. I got to be honest, man, like as I was unpacking and preparing for it, I was just thinking a lot about what my relationship with my dad was like over the last almost 40 years. Man, a lot of it, I was not happy with that dude. He wasn't really present for a lot of my life. Going back through major life events, he wasn't there. Not only to the graduations or the games, which, we talk a lot about as like, I would love to show up to dinner or to be there for my son's game. That feels like table stakes. But what I realized I was really frustrated with was the lack of support and help and word that I got from him. I had to figure out how to position myself for an interview by myself. I had to figure out how to ask a girl out on a date by myself. I had to pick out a suit for my first job by myself. Even when it came time to ask my now father-in-law for my wife's hand in marriage, I had to figure that out on my own. And look, like I'm big about independence, right? Like everybody should pursue self-improvement and develop themselves. But man, it sucks to completely just like figure things out on your own without the help of your parents. And in particular, as a man, your father. And so this retreat this weekend, like that's one of my stated goals. One of my intentions is to go through this programming and spend some time in the wilderness alone, under duress, facing challenges, and really see what in myself got me prepared and ready for being a father of two kids, running a company, doing all the things that I've achieved so far. Frankly, make peace with the fact that my dad did the best he could with what he was given and gave me what he had, which, having learned more about my father's life, he didn't get a lot. So I can understand how we got here, but I'm not completely settled in my relationship to it. It's been a up and down journey exploring all the things that I feel like I felt a void of his presence and his advice. My mom's great. My mom was the person who gave me the talk about being a black man and our relationship to the police. My mom's a Filipino woman. There's no reason she should have been the one to have that talk with me, but she did. My mom gave me dating advice when, I was like, Mom, like, I don't want to hear dating advice from you. And eventually, like, I just learned all of these things about how to be a leader or, how to develop my own personality or how to stand up for myself from my peers. And while it does take a village and it's great to have peers to learn from, it's also very helpful to have that fatherly parent there because they provide a different perspective than your mom. And sometimes you just relate better to your dad. So I don't know, man. I'm like really looking forward to this weekend. It's going to take me, hopefully, to places that I haven't really shown a light on in a number of years to think about because as I enter 40, as I enter the completion of the first year of my son's life, and then he's going to be continuing to get older, and as I continue to think about how to raise my daughter who is in the first grade, I really am intent on examining all of the things that I have built for myself in this construct of fatherhood and of manhood, and just like feel confident that if I'm going to inherit or bequeath that to my kids and leave it as an emotional and intellectual inheritance, that these are things that I'm proud to hand off. Honestly, I haven't looked at a lot of this stuff in a while, so I'm a little nervous about what that's going to bring forth for me because I don't know about y'all, but like when I go back and reflect on or examine upbringing, for me, it's been a lot of isolation, right? I grew up an only child. I grew up with a mom who worked nights as a nurse. I grew up with a dad who wasn't present. So it was just me. I'd like to celebrate the fact that I didn't lose myself completely into video games or the streets, but I also mourn the loss of having that support system around me. And over time, I was able to supplement it with great people, right? Like I have a lot of my friends' parents who have provided examples that I model myself after. But I remember having this discussion with myself one time where I was like, I think I want to be the kind of man that's like a third Will Smith, a third Denzel, and like a third this other person. None of those were my dad. I want to look at like how I made myself into who I am. That's, I think, one of my goals for this weekend with this warrior training, this like vision quest. And I'm hoping that I come back with a little bit more stability and belief in the values that I have constructed for myself, and some willingness to be flexible on other beliefs, because there are things that I am now facing as a parent, whether it's having discussions with other parents at school about academics and my perspective on critical race theory or parents' rights, or just having like basic pushback on boy and girl relationships and what's appropriate and what's not, and like why do I even care about some of this stuff anymore, to running into situations where I have to prepare my kids for the reality of life as a Black woman or man. And as they continue to evolve, like I want to be prepared for these things. And I'm a big believer in practice makes for good preparation, but there's some things I haven't really thought about. So so I want to think about them. So I don't know, man. I'm sharing this because I want to first let people know I'm going to be in the wilderness all weekend. I'm going to be exploring this in a guided experience with some people who know what they're doing, but I feel like it's going to unpack me. It's going to deconstruct me in ways that I haven't been deconstructed in a while. I'm excited about that, but I also know that I am doing it partially for the purpose of making the hard transition from the son who had father parents to lean on into the real father. Like, I am the dad of the house. I am the patriarch of my family. And I still need to come to terms with that, because it can feel like a lot of responsibility sometimes. And on my good days, it's like, hey, you know what? You got yourself this far. You grew yourself. You developed yourself. You molded yourself into the type of person who can handle this responsibility and more. And I have done that. But then, in those low moments, it's like, freaking out, panicking. What do I do here? So, hopefully I come out of this with the foundation that continues to enable me to not be that kind of bad dad that I was like resenting and, I experienced and felt the absence of, and can continue to be the type of thoughtful dad that my kids come to for advice and perspective, and who make them feel safe and warm and protected and supported. That starts with looking within. That starts with analyzing and assessing myself and continuing to make myself a better person. So we'll see, man. I'm about to turn 40 in a couple of weeks here. Sometimes I feel like I completely made myself up, and that's okay, because this is going to be a good opportunity to go back and look at what I created for myself and what I created myself to be, and really assess, like, am I happy with that guy? And if I'm not, on the edges, give myself a chance to work on it. I'll update y'all next week, assuming I come back in one piece from this thing. And hopefully, I've made peace with the ascension to the patriarchal guy in my family, and, put to rest a little bit of the frustration and resentment and anger that I have towards my own dad, so that I can be the best dad possible going forward. So that's it. That was my whole thing for today. I haven't posted in a while, so I figured I'd just share. And hopefully I'll catch up with y'all next week. All right. Peace.